So I don't want to speak too soon, but we may be seeing a bottom here in Southwest Florida. We're going to go right over the chart so you can see how things have actually been lining up and playing out over the last couple of months. But I also have two big stories coming in from the state of Florida. One is about taxes and the potential for elimination of homestead taxes on properties in the state. And the other one is about insurance, which I know has been a big deal and a lot of people's minds as far as why things are costing so much down here in Southwest Florida. So we're going to go over that stuff. But first, let's go right into the stats right here in Southwest Florida, starting off with Lee County. So here's the big story this week. If you've been paying attention and been watching my channel and not just listening to the headlines and all those other doom and gloom channels, then you know I've been talking for the last several weeks, almost into 2 months now, that the inventory has been declining. And this is the chart for just for Lee County. Now, these are just single family homes, but if I added in townhomes and condos, we'd see this continue to decline as well. So this gives you a really good idea. Our peak back here, we were almost at 10,000 properties just for single family homes. That was back in March 15th. All the way through April, we've been declining, and now we're down almost to 9,000. So we're dropped 1,000 units over the last month and a half for active inventory in Lee County. Now, the contributor to that, especially for this week, you can see over the last 2 weeks, we've seen a pretty good uptick. We went from almost a little over 300 units per week going pending, which means sales under contract. So that's over a 7-day period. Last week, it went up to 365, so it went up another 30 units, and now we're over 400. So pendings have been increasing, and that's despite over this past week, interest rates have actually gone back up from 6.8%. Now they're up to 7%. So I don't want to speak too soon, but I really do think Southwest Florida is starting to see the bottom as far as active inventory. And we're starting to see an uptick in the amount of buyers who are entering the market again, whether that's from relocation buyers from up north or just local buyers who are just tired of waiting on the sidelines. Finally seeing a little bit of relief and an opportunity to get some buys in there because prices have been coming down slowly and steadily, but really not all that much from the all-time highs. Again, if you take a look at this chart, the median sales price for Lee County, you can see we had our highs up here and then some of our lows down here. But it's been going back and forth, has been coming down as you can see, but it's getting tighter. So it's not going down quite as much and it's not going quite as high. So I think we're starting to hit a nice level out here, right around the 396,000 range. I think that's kind of where we're at as far as the median sales price in Lee County. The other contributing factor here is if you've been watching for the last couple of weeks, we're seeing new listings coming on declining. So our peak was back here in January of 2025. Just right at the start of the year, which is when we usually see the most come back on because a lot of properties do expire at the end of the year. So those expirations, a lot of them do relist, and we see a huge uptick in inventory in that first couple weeks of January. Now, since then, though, we've been seeing it slowly come down, and we're cutting down to only 500 new listings a week, which is still a decent amount, but you notice we're at 400 pending. So new listings are at 500. We should be seeing inventory coming on. But we're also seeing, if we take a look here, back on the market, it's only 189. We're seeing 1,000 go expired and another 335 terminated. And this is just over 7 days. So those two things in combination with pending sales increasing and new listings declining, we're seeing that combination has created a really large decrease in the amount of active inventory on the market. We also saw over the last month here that we saw a huge uptick in the number of closed sales. So a lot of people have been putting homes under contract, and I've actually seen a pretty good uptick in buyers, not only actually working with agents, but also the amount of ads, people who are clicking on ads for buying properties down here. That's been increasing as well. So we are seeing the market pick back up, and I think it is a bottom for the most part, but again, I don't want to speak too soon. It's still a buyer's market, but it's starting to level out a bit like I'd been talking about. Now, if we switch over here to Collier County, which is the Naples market, Marco Island as well, you can see same story here. Active inventory is down. It's been going down for the last 2 months. Pending sales over the last 3 months, really since January, the end of January, we've been seeing it slowly increase in Collier County as well. New listings, again, back to January 18th where we were at our peak, slowly been declining, and we're now at 135. Back here, we were almost at 300, so down 50%. Closed sales, we did hit a bit of a trough here, and then we're back up to where we were. This was at 122, now we're at 121, March to May. So the trend is up overall, and I don't see any reason for it not to continue that way with less listings coming on the market, more people entering the market to buy, and active inventory declining. So I think it's going to shift back to a more neutral market, and we'll probably see things start to level out quite a bit throughout the region. Now, again, the reason I split up Lee and Collier counties is because Collier County is a totally different market when it comes to the median sales price, and would definitely skew the overall numbers for Lee County. So right here, you can see this county, the median sales price is 825 compared to Lee County, which was right around the 386 this week. We see here the same trends as Lee County. Prices have slowly but steadily been declining, and I think we are going to start to see things start to tighten up here a little bit too. Now, as I said, NerdWallet, this is just an average. I know there are lower rates out there depending on who you use for a broker or a lender, but the average interest rate right now for the 30-year fixed mortgage is 7.002%. Again, that's up from 6.8% last week. So we did see them actually increase. And again, that's all usually attributed to the bond market. People are worried about the economy right now, so they usually shift their money from higher risk assets like stocks into lower risk assets like bonds, which do provide a more steady but lower return on investment. However, when that happens, that also affects the yield, and that yield is what we track for the interest rates. And usually the mortgage interest rates are what follow that. Now we get into our stories here. This is right from Florida, Tallahassee. Committee is discussing the property tax reform. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to Governor DeSantis, but a little while back, not too long ago, he did propose, similar to President Trump, the idea of eliminating property taxes, especially and more specifically for homesteads. So that is more than half the year and have their primary residence here in the state of Florida. They would potentially be looking at the elimination of all property taxes. Now, there's obviously two sides of the story, and there's going to be an argument as to, well, if they're not paying property taxes, they're going to be paying taxes somewhere else, which is, I'm sure, is true. But voters may get the chance to weigh in on that. They did meet for the first time Friday on May 2nd. They discussed 5 of the proposals. The first one being requiring every city, county, and special district to hold a referendum on the elimination of the homestead property taxes. Second one was create a new $500,000 homestead property tax exemption for non-school property taxes. That $500,000 exemption would be increased to $1 million for homeowners who are over 65 years of age or who have had a homestead in Florida for over 30 years. So whichever of those may fit your profile. The third one would be authorizing the state legislature to raise the amount of the homestead exemption by state statute. 4, enhancing Florida's assessment limitation caps for homestead and non-homestead properties. We could change the homestead assessment cap from 3% per year to 3% every 3 years. For non-homestead assessments, we would adjust the cap from 10% per year to 15% every 3 years. And then number 5 is prohibit the government from foreclosing on a homestead property for unpaid taxes. The next story comes from Sarasota. Plan update could lower flood insurance rates. So if you're considering moving to the Sarasota area, this may be something that's worth considering. Updates to the Sarasota's watershed plans aim to improve flood prevention and could boost NFIP, which is a National Flood Insurance Program, insurance discounts for local property owners. So basically, they're trying to beef up their infrastructure and get themselves more discounts by basically trying to build preventative aspects into that area. If it's approved by the insurance service offices and the governing bodies of the city and county, they could contribute to an increase in the discount that property owners receive in the National Flood Insurance Program. So that's it for this week's market update. But with the market shifting as it has been over the last few weeks, you want to stay informed, you want to stay up to date, especially with someone who's hyper local and does the stats specifically for a county or cities like this channel does. Don't just rely on the headlines, don't rely on the gurus and the real estate channels who do all of the national stats, because they're not giving you things that are hyper local specific to a market, and they're probably misleading you as far as where is the market going next. So stay tuned to a channel like this. I would love it if you subscribed, and I would love it if you did find this valuable. Please hit that thumbs up button. It does help me get this information out to people who need it and eliminate some of that noise that they're hearing from all those other channels and the local and legacy media outlets. I hope you guys found this information helpful, and I hope to see you in the next video. But until then, stay safe, stay positive, and more importantly, stay free.